Hi, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and I've got the Blix Ultra here today. This is a fat tire e-bike that's super powerful, super fast, and it's also ultra customizable through Blix's range of optional accessories and also its Bluetooth functionality. So we're going to do a deep dive on the specs and the performance. Stay tuned. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. That allows you to know when we upload new content so you can see more reviews like this. So let's talk about Blix briefly as a company. Their lineup of bikes generally features a lot of Dutch-styled, more classic-looking e-bikes. So the Ultra is really a big departure from that. We've got these big knobby front and rear tires. Got that front suspension fork and a 750 watt rear hub motor. Those things really let the Ultra go anywhere, do a little bit of everything to a point. But the functionality is also really expanded with Blix's range of accessories for the bike. You can add both front and rear cargo racks, front and rear baskets, and you can actually add seats to the rear rack so you can expand your passenger capacity as well. But one of the biggest things is the Ultra's capacity of handling 2 batteries. You've got the main one in the down tube there, and then a slot for a second behind the seat post. Our bike did not come equipped with that, but our testing kind of backs up Blix's claim that that really doubles the range. The Ultra also connects to your phone through the Bluetooth app. That allows your phone to double as sort of a secondary display on the bike. We'll cover it a little bit more later, but the Ultra has a very small, minimalistic display. So if you're inclined to want a little bit more to look at, a little more information available, pairing your app there is a great function. Your phone can also switch the bike from Class 2 to Class 3 mode, which is great. You can do that on the fly. That brings you from the Class 2 limit of 20 miles an hour up to 28 with Class 3. For anybody that likes speed, great feature. Let's talk a little bit more about the cargo capacity on the bike. As I mentioned, front and rear cargo racks. The rack that we have here does not come standard on the bike, but ours did come with it. As you can see, it's really well built, well constructed, gives the bike a 150-pound capacity. That allows you to handle those extra riders, but when you have weight on there, I think the bike actually handles a little better. I love the speed, I love the handling anyway, but with some extra weight there, it really feels a little bit more balanced. But speaking of balance, when you're at a standstill, when you're stationary, weight on there can make the bike feel a little tippy. Fortunately though, the sort of hybrid frame design we have here compensates for that a lot. You don't have to swing your leg over the bike. You can just sort of step through that hybrid frame. That also allows you to hop on and off as needed when you're traveling. So with all of that said, let's talk about the specs and the components. So when we're talking about the Ultra specs, let's start here at the back end of the bike. We've got that 750 watt rear hub motor. It's got 90 Newton meters of torque. So with all of that, you've got plenty of uphill capability. You have an 8-speed micro shift drivetrain. While that is not like a Shimano or a SRAM, it is compatible with both of those. So that's a great feature. The batteries are both 672 watt hour, 48 volt. Power is going to be there when you need it. And if you have both batteries installed, again, you've got awesome range. Moving up to the front of the bike, we have Zoom 180 millimeter hydraulic disc brakes. We've got the same 180 millimeter rotors on the front and back. The fork is also made by Zoom. That has 80 millimeters of travel. and really performed great. Like, we took this thing off-road and just really loved its ability to handle rougher roads without causing any discomfort on the way. We've got a nice headlight. There is a tail light, although ours for some reason is unconnected, but that's okay. Talking about the cockpit then, we have the, again, pretty small minimalistic display that comes standard on the bike. That will display either your battery level, your pedal assist level, or your speed, but not all three at the same time. However, if you're, say, on the speedometer setting and you do change the pedal assist level, it will show you what level you're at for a short period of time. But I do recommend picking up a phone mount. The bike does not come with one. I wish it did. But when we were out and about testing, we threw one on there, and it allows you to see all of that information simultaneously, which is really great. And we've also got the throttle lever, with it being a class 2, and the thumb shifter, which I really appreciated. Whether you're shifting up or down, you've got the same motion. It's all very smooth. It's great. So let's talk a little bit more about the bike's performance in our testing. So the first test that we're going to talk about is our brake test. For that, we bring the bike up to the class 2 speed limit of 20 miles an hour. We come to a stop as quickly as we can while maintaining control of the bike, and we measure the distance as we do come to a complete stop. We repeat that process 3 times. That allows us to get sort of an average that allows us to compare and get a range for all similar bikes. So with the Ultra here, we've got those Zoom 180 millimeter hydraulic front and rear disc brakes. That resulted in the Ultra having an average stopping distance of 22 feet 8 inches. That's pretty good. It is a little bit on the slower end. Similar bikes are averaging about a foot less than that. But when you're on the bike, honestly, you don't notice it. It feels great. It feels very solid. And I think part of that is helped by the fact that the Ultra has this really long extended wheelbase. So one thing to note is that if you do have extra cargo on the back of the bike, your stopping distance is going to be extended. So if you have cargo, if you have extra passengers, apply the brakes a little bit sooner, and you'll be good to go. So with that said, let's look at our circuit test data. So for our circuit test, we take the bike through a 1 mile loop that's made up of 4 right turns, and it also has a small 30-foot climb. We do that at each of the bike's pedal assist levels, and also in a lap with no motor assistance whatsoever, just so we can see how the motor engages and also what the bike feels like if you run out of juice. So it's worth pointing out that with the Ultra, we tested it in class 2 mode. That's the way the bike ships. That's the way you would get it if you bought it. So we wanted to see just the baseline with that. At PAS 0, you're pedaling a big heavy bike. That's no motor assistance. You're gonna move slow. This thing is a bit rough to get up hills especially. But once the motor engages at pedal assist 1, you're good to go. You really do feel that input. You feel sort of the weight of the bike disappear. And I know our data shows, I believe, around 14 miles an hour, but you really do get up to speed easily, even at PAS 1, which is pretty cool. That's not something that's super common. Going up from there in pedal assist 2, if you have any cargo on the back, that really takes the weight of the cargo off. When I tested the bike with some cargo, I think I had about 40 to 50 pounds on the back, and it felt as though that was not present at all. Once you get in PAS 3, you start getting a little bit more help on hills. You can still get up hills in PAS 1 and 2, but it's definitely a lot more difficult. In 3, you start getting that a little bit of extra assistance that helps you climb. And then in PAS 4, going up hills gets even easier. And in the 5th setting, everything is just pretty effortless speed. It does kind of feel like the bike is tuned for class 3 mode. If you see the data, the jumps in miles per hour between 4 and 5, it sort of tapers off a little bit. So once you have that in class 3 mode, you really do get those jumps again, brings you back up to that 28 miles per hour speed limit. So with that said, let's move on to the range test and see how it did. All right, so for our range tests, we take the bike out, we run it until the battery dies. We do that both in the minimum and the maximum PAS settings. That allows us to get sort of a real world range of battery performance and how many miles you can get out of a bike on a single charge. So with the Ultra, with our Ultra here, we actually just had the single battery option, although Blix's marketing kind of focuses on the possibility of having 2 batteries. So they market the bike as having a maximum range with 2 batteries up to 80 miles. Now with just a single 48 volt, 672 watt hour battery, our testing definitely supports that. In minimum PAS setting, we got a maximum of 51.7 miles. At PAS 5, we got 24.3 miles. So if you're taking that maximum, the 51.7, thinking about that with just a single battery, it's entirely possible to exceed the 80-mile range claimed by Blix. It's also worth pointing out that with that PAS 1, again, you're getting a lot of motor input, you're getting noticeable power from the motor, and you're also getting great range. So, you know, if you're not dealing with a lot of hill climbing, I really think that PAS 1, even PAS 2 if you have some cargo, like those are definitely the sweet spots on the bike. They're more than functional, they're great. All right, let's move along. So for our hill test, we take our bikes up a local hill called Hellhole. It's about 1/3 of a mile long with an average of 12% grades, and it really presents a pretty extreme challenge for most e-bikes. Not all the bikes that we test make it up the hill, so if one does, we generally consider it successful, and the Ultra had no problem at all on that hill. We tested it both with throttle only and also in pedal assist 5. With the throttle, it conquered the hill in 1 minute and 22 seconds with an average of 13.2 miles an hour. In pedal assist 5, that came all the way down to 1 minute and 8 seconds with an average of 16 miles per hour. So again, this thing really has no trouble at all. It is worth discussing that while the bike is, where the motor uses cadence sensors, it really feels a little bit more like a torque sensor. In that it feels like a bike first and an e-bike second. And that is pretty pronounced when you're on hills. You can kind of customize your experience on hills because of that though. If you're in pedal assist 1 through 3, you're gonna be putting in a majority of the work. You may be wanting to rely a little bit more on that throttle, but then in PAS 4 and 5, the bike is, you know, again, having no trouble at all. My biggest takeaway with the Blix Ultra is that it's just really easy to customize. And that's not only talking about the accessories that Blix offers, but just like the feel of the ride itself. It is something you can really tailor to your needs. And that's great for anybody that, you know, wants to take it either off-road or into town, you know, load up cargo or an extra passenger. Anywhere you want to go, like this thing is going to be able to do it. And you're not really compromising a whole lot anywhere where you might with some other bikes. Ultimately, pros that jump out at me, this bike is super fast. It loves speed. I loved it for that reason. It was a lot of fun to ride. You actually get a lot of power from the motor at that first pedal assist level, which again is pretty uncommon. So that was really nice to see here. And then just in general, it was comfortable to ride for even longer periods of time, and it handled well during that. Things to know that, you know, just things to keep in mind with the bike. They're minor, but the minimal display that comes on the bike seems to, at least for me, encourage the use of a phone. Blix did not offer a phone mount on their website. I'd love to see one included with the bike, or at least on offer there. it's something you can easily find on Amazon and pick up, which I definitely recommend doing, but it doesn't come standard on the bike. And then also just the cargo capacity of the bike. It's good to keep in mind that that center of gravity is a little bit higher than on like dedicated cargo bikes. It's not a problem. Again, the frame design kind of helps out with that, but it's just something to think about when you're using the bike. So again, I loved it. This is great. This is a super fun bike. If you like this review, if you want to read more, check out the links below. You can see my full written review. You can check the website on the Blix page for their best price. And that's it. We'll see you next time. I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the Blix Ultra.